All right, welcome everybody to this nth meeting. I don't know what n is, but pushing close to 10, I think. So that's good. Oh, hey, speak of the devil. There he is, the man himself. Hi, Leo. Oh, John too. All right, yeah, who can forget John? All right, very good. Welcome. Hi, John. Hi, Leo. Can you hear us, Leo? Maybe not.
Be right back.
The internet tube to Liverpool is clogged. Try again. All right, Leo, can you hear us?
I can now, yes.
You can. All right, very good. Good to see you. How's life?
Yeah, rough.
Yes, I can see you have a shave, so yeah, that must be it.
With the baby in the nursery, now we're just getting sick from all these old world viruses here.
Of course, yes.
So it's like a Colombian exchange all over again.
In there, yes. All right, so I just had said welcome to everybody to this meeting. We'll try to keep it on time. So we usually start with a status update on GMT development. So as you probably heard, that NASA decided not to fund us, bastards. So screw them. So this is several things that I had held back on doing because I thought it felt better with the NASA proposal. But now that we don't get that funding, I'll do them anyway because they're needed. So the key thing was that I've done the last couple months, I guess, is to make it simpler to make maps with the remote data sets by not requiring people to know anything about what resolution they should pick. Because I think most people aren't capable of coming up with the right resolution given the projection and size and all that stuff, unless they know what to do, use a calculator. So this one, they basically provide the right resolution that gives a map of a pre-specified dot per inch image, which is a GMT defaults. And I set it to 300, but we could change it if that is not high enough quality. But anyway, so based on that setting, and of course you can change it yourself, but based on that setting, GMT figures out which resolution it needs from whatever data set you pick for the task. And this is only available from plotting routines, obviously. You're not going to be able to do a GRD cut and not specify the resolution because there is no scale. So it only happens for plotters. So that's more or less implemented. It kind of works. It will change a bunch of the PostScript original for testing. So we're sort of holding back on that until we get the whole testing into DVC, can't remember the acronym, to make it a little bit simpler and decouple the large test files from the GMT repo. So that's sort of where we're going with that. I think it's time for a 6.3 release. We said we would do it. It always comes down and it takes a little longer because I took a few days off to go to Maui. Raining, windy, just like you expected. And but we're getting close to doing 6.3. So I guess especially for Python and Julia, if there's some outstanding problem that is causing trouble in your packages, re-bring them to my attention or make its attention so we can have a look at them again. Excuse me. We have over 200 issues, so it tends to scroll off the front page. I forget, and I can't remember to scroll down to the other pages. So please remind me if there's something that really critical that we should look at. Anything else on 6.3, Megan, that we're sort of waiting on?
I have a question, I guess for Weiji, related to PyGMT. So when we were deciding on the PyGMT release date, we discussed that it would be better to do that before GMT. And now that's PyGMT's release is going to be in at least 1 week,
October.
2 weeks. So is there a request to delay GMT until the week after that, or does it matter for PyGMT at all?
I feel like it's going to be delayed anyway, so
Okay.
it doesn't really matter.
Okay, so we will not make it explicit, just
No,
rely on.
Just Just rely on history
Yeah, okay.
repeating itself.
So we're planning a release for next week, I think is
Mm.
what Paul and I had talked about, but that is always optimistic.
Yeah, it might take a little longer, right? Once we start scrambling through the various, I saw there was the PyGMT case this morning of something that's not quite run yet with GRD. I guess it was surface minus M or something that you need to look at. So it could easily slip into early November, I suspect, or worst case.
Yeah,
Could
ideally
take a day.
sort of like a month before AGU is sort of a month to like a month and a half before AGU. I think it's a good time. So people have time to,
Yep.
like the brave people have time to update their posters and stuff.
Yeah. In the olden days, Wolf and I would release GMT just before AGU and break a lot of scripts and take flack. And we repeated that several times until we learned a lesson. So kids have it too easy today, they get plenty of time. It's all right.
You'd imagine people would have learned not to upgrade things before then, like you don't ever hit that update button.
Oh, I always hit the update button. New macOS update, click. It's like, what? Compiler's not working?
I think I updated my macOS hours before the last GMT release and it worked out fine.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's dangerous when Apple do an update and they forget to put some include file or something that happened before. That's a little tricky. But yeah, we'll try not to get too close to AGU.
Well, regarding this, I don't know if there is much control for large majority of people that just update when they are allowed to be updated by the package managers. But it was not that I was wanted. Today in the GDAL list, because some other guys had the problem and I confirmed, and apparently Conda GDAL is broken. I installed it. Miniconda is very mini. So it was 18 gigabytes of my computer. And I decided that it was a bit over the mini definition. And I whip it out and install it again. And then I confirmed and I look at the dependencies. And that GDAL library on Windows is broken, almost for sure. He has a symbol. It's a conflict, a symbol conflict. I don't know why it was not detected. It was not me. I just confirmed with the other guy. But well, just to be aware that there might be issues with with GDAL on Conda.
Yeah. So
I really find strange because that's something that more people have found, but it was not me alone and just ran a command that he said, that typical Windows error that cannot load. People think that the file was not found, but normally that's something very much more deep. It's some dependency. And in fact, I saw one symbol that was either missing or something was broken. So for me, and I have suffered really a lot of these things along the years. For me, the DLL on Conda is broken.
So are you able to go back and have a functioning system on your side though?
Sorry, me?
Are you able to do your machine have a functioning GDAL by going back in time, or is it?
No. I just moved my GDAL DLL away. I changed the name and I used one that is installed by Conda, and then I put it in the dependency kind of dependency walker. And sometimes it helps me. That times it pointed to me a symbol that was red, and when that happens, normally is the fault because some dependency always was built with I don't know the reason. The fact is, at least for two Portuguese, it did not work.
Joaquin, do you know if this was the GDAL from Conda Forge, or?
I think yes. Yes. By the way, the guy that found it said he was going to report it on the Conda Forge.
Okay, because I was just checking to see if I find anything, but was this Pedro?
Yes, Pedro Venezio.
Okay,
Venezio,
yeah,
yes.
I can see his issue here. Okay, yeah, so he has reported it, but no reply so far. But it's only been 2 hours, so.
Okay.
Well, it'll probably be solved in a short time relative to the GMT release, hopefully. Yeah, I haven't. There's a new Go script out, I think, 9.55. I don't think I have it. It hasn't gone through the repo for, what's it, GS minus version. I have 9.54 on my system. So usually when GoScript gets updated, they leave a little Easter egg for us to deal with, like, oh, transparency broke again, or oh, something. It's been the last several versions, there've been a lot of bugs that they introduced that we have found in GMT, and it's taken a while for them to fix it. So I suspect we should try to install 9.55 and see, and run all the tests, because there's a history there. we don't want to, you know, we're the ones who get the emails that plus aren't working or this are broken or something like that, because GMT makes the PostScript. So
that's really the one that you do not want to update. If you can stay with 223, I think. Every month.
54 is fine, I think.
Oh yeah, well, it's one every other. So you
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure if it's 21, 22, or 23, the one that if you have it, just keep it, don't update anymore.
The email from them said that they have rewritten the entire PDF converter in C instead of PostScript. So you would think that's a big change.
I think no. I think he said it's a separate
bugs, you know.
It's a separate thing. From the description, I think it's a separate thing. So it's something that's being developed. It shouldn't be dangerous for that side. If only if they are concentrated on that, hopefully they did not break it for us this time.
Well, I will try to install 955 to see what happens at least. I think, and maybe Megan want to try that too. It's good to get a couple of different eyes on this, make sure.
On the last release, some people experienced difficulties because the bundle came with 9.53 rather than 5.4, which causes issues if there's another installation with Conda. So we need to test this to make sure that we can include the latest in the bundle. Yeah, the
bundle thing. It's the issue. Okay, so that's where we are, I guess, on release plans, mostly fixing bugs, I would say. A little bit more testing on this auto resolution, but mostly bug fixing we've been focusing on. And a few new features. This is a new release after all. We gotta have some new things. Any other questions or thoughts about the release?
Hi. Well, there was a news release from Windows. I don't know if that could be an issue, if it was tested or something. Windows 11.
Windows 11, right? It just came out. Anyone here on Windows 11?
No way.
I guess
no,
I can upgrade.
No.
All right.
No.
I shouldn't expect any troubles for us, but for many other things, I'm afraid I can have it. So I will not install it for some time. I'm not gonna jump on it, but I think that regarding to us, you would not.
It should be okay. Yeah.
Should be okay.
Yeah. So long as you build your package GMT installer on Windows 10, I think you'll be okay. We won't find anything new.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. That 11. I'll see if I can install 11 somewhere. That's an excellent point, usually.
I have one additional comment about 6.3. I think we being mostly Paul and Federico have updated 4 out of the 5 first animations. So I'm wondering if that's in the works for the next release to have all of those updated.
Was that a question for me?
Sure.
Was it? I didn't quite hear it. It's like your voice was a bit mumbled.
Sorry. So for the in progress work for 6.3, I think it would be great to get the last of the first 5 animations updated. I think that was held up by the auto resolution issues, especially with the general stereographic projection, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, both Federico and I was looking at animations and zooming in and stuff, and I got sidetracked with bug fixing, and then I got to go back to that. Yeah, that's true. We have a new 4 being worked on, I think. And I think we had a couple of new animation, Federico. You had your Indiana Jones one, I think is cool. You want to put that one in? That's a really fun one. You know, if you guys, well, you all seen the movie with Indiana Jones flying and you see the red line on the map going from wherever to wherever. He has a pretty cool one like that. So I like that.
Yeah, the animation updates have all been really excellent. So great job on this.
Yeah, so I think that would be good to squeeze in there. Yeah, that's true. So animations, we gotta look at the status of that. I have one, the plan was to, for the auto resolution, right? I have one that, well, Federico also has one like that, zooming from far out and down to, you know, 10 by 10 kilometers or something like that. And the goal is that it should be seamless to the viewer that the resolutions are improving. We shouldn't suddenly have a step function where suddenly it gets better at a certain altitude, right? So that's where the fine tuning of that algorithm that picks the resolution comes in, to make sure we are not having any step function. And that's, yeah, so that's something I want to continue to look at, because, you know, there's clearly some trade-off. You know, how do you go from 2 minutes to 1 minute resolution, right? There's a decision somewhere depending on the projection and the size of the plot, and you want to make sure there's enough overlap so that you don't notice that the low resolution is being plotted at 300 dots per inch. So I have to play with that a bit more to get that seamless. All right, structuring teams on GitHub, Megan, you want to bring that up? Because I don't quite understand.
Yep, sounds great. I'll drop the link to the discussion in the Zoom chat so people can see it. So over the summer, we restructured the GitHub teams for PyGMT. So if you're not familiar, teams are how people are organized into groups on GitHub repositories. So different people or different groups of people can have different permissions. And right now for GMT, we have GMT contributors and GMT admins. And I think as more people are getting more involved, it would be good to have an intermediate group of maintainers. A recent event that motivated this was that Paul was held up on a GMT server pull request because Federico, as a GMT contributor, didn't have right permissions to that pull request. So I think in addition to having more maintainer permissions related to controlling discussions and issues, the maintainer group could also have right permissions to some of these other repositories that are pretty intertwined with GMT. And for the PyGMT repository, we did nested teams, and this gives a structure that allows kind of upward mobility and permissions pretty nicely. So, and has a really flexible organization for contributors and maintainers, and the admin section is expected to be pretty static since it's less common that you'll need to appoint a new admin. So I think it would be really helpful for GMT to adopt that same structure. I put the structure that I'm referring to in the chat, and wanted to bring it up at this meeting for feedback.
It seems like a really good system to me. The PyGMT people are smart people. They figured this out as a good model. I would trust them.
Okay, well, if everyone's on board or no one says any objections. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Work with the nested teams. How does that work? The inner team is gonna have the highest permission, and then you do it outwards.
Yeah, so we have, for example, for PyGMT, there's a parent team, and that has triage permissions. And then inside of that, there's an admin team, which has triage and then also admin. And then there's a separate contributors team. And then inside of that, there's a maintainers team. And so the maintainers team will have the same permissions as the contributors and the parent team, with whatever additional ones you want to set. It could be some, it could be no more, right? But it has to be at least the same permissions as the outer team.
Then adding someone to the inner team automatically puts them on all the others.
Yeah, so it's quite useful for pinging, because then if you ping contributors, you also ping maintainers.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no objections. I was just curious how that works.
Okay, well, if anyone thinks about it and has any objections, you can post it on GitHub. And if there aren't any by next week, I'll go ahead and make those adjustments.
Sounds good to me. Sorry, I'm just writing some notes. All right, I guess no complaints about that one, so we'll implement that. Just a few things about data sets on the GMT server. So we're planning to add a bunch of new data sets, remote data sets. And because it doesn't have to synchronize with GMT 6.3 because they're decoupled, it will just appear available to people if they access them. But we'll see. So I pretty much processed all the files and everything is sort of ready to go. I'm working with SOAS to set up a little test URL so I can test things without putting everything on the server, so it's sort of seamless. So hopefully that will happen today. But the data set we're adding is, well, Walter knows about this. Sandwall has cranked out another version of SRTM with more data. So that's the Earth relief tiles will all get updated to the latest version. There's the publication in the wings there that's been submitted that describes it. But it's also actually two versions of relief coming out. One is the same one we have with more data. And the other one is more an experimental one where Dave has worked with John Goff and a few other people to try to improve the shortest wavelengths features. So the Abyssal Hills, which not really resolve well in the gravity, they are using synthetic predictions based on the statistics of seafloor spreading. Abyssal Hill fabric, that's what John Goff has spent his life doing. So instead of having this sort of the blurry egg carton stuff where there's not much features, you will see realistic looking bathymetry based on the spreading patterns that you normally would see given the spreading direction and so on. So it will look like there's really good data in many areas where there really isn't, but it'll look realistic. So synthetic. And the same thing with small seamounts that tend to be blurred and rounded off. Dave is replacing those with sort of Gaussian seamount model that has been calibrated against real data. So it will just look more realistic, but it's synthetic. So I'm calling this Earth SynBath, but the SynBath is their name for that data set. So you could use that if you want, but I don't want to just offer that one since people might want to just get the, what they're used to. So with two Earth relief products, of course, at the the lowest resolution, the SRTM tiles, they're shared because that's just land. So we won't duplicate those, but it'll be the higher, the lower resolutions that will be new. And then we got permission to put Dave's gravity and vertical gravity gradients on the server. So I have created the same tile structure hierarchy for those, so you can make gravity and VGG maps the same way you do Earth relief. And he has provided me with his default CPTs, so that is a default color table if the user doesn't specify anything. And then finally, I'm adding two magnetic grids, the EMAG and the WD-MAM maps grids to the mix with their preferred color tables. So you can make grids of magnetic anomalies if you want. Those are not very large, so that'll be not much pressure on the servers. It's just the relief files that are big, but that's mostly SRTM tiles that are big and they don't change. They haven't changed. So those are the files that are going to go up as soon as we sort of run through a little bit testing with that stuff. And of course, in the NASA proposal, there was planned to add other planets. This is why there's a directory called Earth. The plan was there would be another directory called Mars and Moon and whatnot, Venus, and there'll be DEMS and geo potential grids for those planets too. They might still happen, but right now we're just doing Earth. That's sort of what's common there. Any comments on that scheme?
Sounds great.
Hopefully, it will make it easier and more accessible. It used to be that you had to be an expert to use the IMG Mercator files to make a plot. and you can only make them in Mercator projection, all that stuff. So that will be a little simpler. You can still do that. If you're an expert, you might want to go and get those files because they are not interpolated onto a long lat grid in the end. But what we distribute will be the resample long lat 1 minute and then the derivatives from that, just like we do for the bathymetry. And we need to set up some schemes so that we are notified when these things get updated. They get updated fairly often. I think Dave has a 6-month cycle as more satellite data comes in for the gravity solutions. But it's not like an announcement is being made for most of those things. It's just an FTP server has a new file, so we have to write a little script to check.
Okay, so the SRTM gets updated. Was it 6 months? Every 6 months, you said?
No, that's more erratic, I think. But I noticed that what we had is like SRTM 15.2.1, and 2.3 is the one that's coming out. So I don't know if there was a 2.2, for instance. Maybe there was.
I think someone mentioned there was like it wasn't a public release or something like that.
Of 2.2?
There was a 2.2, yeah, but it wasn't available, or
if there was,
not sure.
I missed it. So we can't rely on someone getting an email, I think. So we have a couple of cron tab jobs that check for new things. Like we're checking when the Fabio releases new scientific color maps. Because the same thing, right? Suddenly it's a new release and we don't find out until a year later. It's kind of stupid. So now we know because we have a checker that checks his website. We'll just do the same thing for Dave's products so that we just know when there's a new thing.
Okay.
Can't rely on all sources.
I had another question. So the SRTM update would be independent from the GMT 6.3 release. Is that correct? Or would that sort of be?
They're decoupled in the sense that there is nothing in GMT source code that depends on what's on the server. Right? So we could just populate the server with more data in December, and as long as you go to the latest online documentation, you will see what's available there, and it will work from your computer. But it's true that the announcement of what's in the server is in the GMT documentation, right? So if we don't update it for 6.3, then it requires people to click on the nightly build documentation, right, to see what's in the unstable, unreleased version. There will be. So maybe we do want to get this in for 6.3 so that it's documented at the same time. But source code wise, it shouldn't make any difference if we add things later. Okay.
So try to sort of sync between,
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, once I get this test server up and running, I don't expect to be any problems. It should work just the same as what we have right now. We have the H grids and we have different kinds of grids and images, so it works. We finally got Joachim and I got the cutting of images working well, so that when you're plotting a day or night image, you don't have to read the whole stupid file, which took a long time when you're making movies. That's where this came in. Realizing that it was trying to read the whole 30 arc-second day-night image just to make a little plot. And when you do that on 24 cores, it turns out my machine will stop functioning. So that was the killer feature. But yeah, okay. So I think that's a good point. We should get these data sets up and about and ready for the 6.3 release, so we can get it all documented at the same time.
Paul, so you mentioned now that there's no coupling in the code with what's on the server, but for the newer feature where it tries to guess the resolution of the data, does that code need to know which resolution grids are on the server? So does it ping the server somehow, or is that hard coded in the code somewhere?
No, there's a table on the server that lists what's on the server, and GMT always gets a copy of that once a day if you access any remote grid. So it refreshes that. So if we put new files and say, there's a new version as of November 1st, and you're trying to make a topography map plot, it will realize that, you have old tiles now, and it will get the new file.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and as the auto resolution part, that's just a new software thingy that will work for 6.3, but 6.2 people won't even be aware, and they, it just won't be a feature. So, so it wouldn't affect anyone.
My thing was just that if it relied on knowing the resolutions beforehand, if we ever change the resolutions available or the tiling somehow, then 6.3 would be broken if the data changes on the server. So like in a year's time or 2 years time, when there's 6.4, 6.5, like if the data layout changes, then 6.3 would be broken. The data access part, but that's because I was assuming that the resolutions were in the code. But if it's getting that from a file, as long as it can still read the file, even if the file is different, then it should work.
Yeah, we went through this with 6.0 to 6.1, where I realized after the first remote data sets that I needed to have more metadata available. So I had to change the format of that metadata file. And of course, that wouldn't work with 6.0. So we had to have 2 separate files for a while to make that work. And we have some files duplicated because of where they were supposed to live on the server. So there's some legacy stuff from 6.0 that, you know, eventually we'll just pull the plug and say, sorry, you can update. But yeah, I'm very aware that all these things can change in the future, and we might get different sets of resolutions and so on. So it has to be dynamically discovered from what's on the server. So hopefully I won't have to break anything, because that just adds more work to have, you know, multiple flavors available. Yeah, that's a good point. Is there any other global data set that you wish were in there? That's, gee, why don't we have X? I'm just doing stupid gravity and topography things. That's all I care about. So I don't know anything else. Is there any global cool? I mean, there's oceanography stuff, but it's all temporal, so it becomes this nightmare of supplying that kind of stuff. And
I think Klaus mentioned something during the PyGMT meeting on like higher resolution coastlines.
Oh yeah.
Didn't you?
Yes, I mentioned the DCW because it's quite old, and for most of the coastline computations, I'm using the OSM data. If there would be some update for DCW or something better like that, that would be quite nice to have.
Totally. Yeah, that's been on our agenda for some time. We have actually hoped that the NASA grant would provide some funding to hire Roger Davis to actually dig into this deep for us and update GSHH3 with the OSM data. So now we'll have to do it ourselves. So it is something we have said we would do. It is just, how to put this, not a pleasant task to do, but I think it's an important task. So it has to, has to come to the point where I realize that, well, you know, sometimes you just got to get even dirtier and dig down into that and update that. But yeah, there's nothing to disagree with you on this. The DCW is very old. Part of GSHS is also quite old. And, you know, every month at least or so, we get email from someone who have discovered that their favorite coastline or island is off by 500 meters or a kilometer relative to some new modern data. And it's always, you know, you can't do too much about it. It's hard to band-aid the entire planet. You just really need new data. And the OSM seem to be our best bets to do that.
It's quite difficult to do that if you're having a very flat area where a lot of areas are below sea level, and you try to model that. So you have to do a lot of clipping with different pieces in order to get that quite realistic, because, for example, in the Netherlands or northern Germany, we do have a lot of area which is 1 meter below sea level, but it's a dry land. So you need to model that. Otherwise, you would have half of the dry land in wet areas, and it wouldn't look quite realistic. So it's always good to have highest resolution coastline for that.
Yep. The last time I looked at the files, the OSM folks have some nightly, not sure if it's nightly, but they have a snapshot where they dump out all the coastline coordinates in a shapefile. But
yes, I got that. I got that, but it's only the coastline. So
right,
if you, for example, need some national border or something like borderline between Netherlands and Germany, so it's not in the OSM data.
Yeah, so that's where you have to go into the full database, I think, to extract features, and that's where things get a little bit, take more time to learn their whole system, and that's what I was hoping to have Roger do for us. So now it's back to us, Megan or someone, to learn how to do that. So so we could do the coastline, but we can't do lakes, so it's kind of lame to update the coastline and have 1970s lakes that cross them and so on. That's the challenge. It's with different generation data sets.
Have you tried
millions of crossovers between lakes and coastlines? Not fun. Sorry.
I mean, have you tried the GADM? Not sure how to spell it. I type it in on chat. You know it? GADM.
Yeah.
They come in shapes and geo package files. They have a lot. They have much. Well, it's much more recent data. Don't know the origin. Probably many origins. One thing is we could not. Given their license, we can never redistribute them. They allow us to get, but they do not allow us to others for redistribute. So you have to get it from their site, which is an American university that many times is down. My scripts failed, but it's good data.
Yeah. I think I looked at some of the political things, right? And administrative, the ADM is for administrative boundaries or something like that.
Yes, they have administrative boundaries till to your neighborhood for all countries in the world. It's impressive.
Yeah.
But they have you can but they are separate. You can ask just the polygons of the countries. It's not a coastline, it's per country.
Right, exactly.
There's another data set too for inland water coming from the SWAT mission that will give you lakes down to, I can't remember what the smallest lake or smallest pond, but it's ridiculously small, very detailed water body data set. We developed one for ISAT 2, which I don't think is yet publicly available, but I think it's planned to become publicly available soon. So I have seen a lot of trouble with the inland water bodies.
Yeah. John, could you send me an email with some link to something that I can?
No, you just.
What it is, because I haven't heard about that one. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. So I probably should make an agenda item of this to, have some action items on this so we can move forward, because we have talked about this data set for a very long time, and we need an action plan and some steps we can move forward on this. I think otherwise it will never happen, obviously. So I think we all agree that good coastlines is very important, and GMT shouldn't have old coastlines. It just causes pain and suffering. All right. Okay, that's all I have. Anyone else have any other items they want to bring up? Is Christoph alive? Do we know? I haven't, I think last time we saw him was in June or something. It's completely gone AWOL. I just worry about the guy. Okay, no one knows. I got Remco posted a PR a couple of days ago, so he's still around. He's just lurking there from time to time, so that's good. I can get Florian to respond to an email if I write the word urgent somewhere. Try not to do that until I have to. There's been a couple of times for the last few years where I need to ask him something. All right. Well, it's a short meeting, unless anyone has any desire to make it longer.
So one question: Are there any plans for what are the plans for AGU this year? Will people be attending? Is there like, is anyone gonna risk going in person? Or
I think maybe Megan is going, right?
Yeah, I don't know about in person yet, but we have a 3-minute lightning talk on PyGMT on Friday afternoon. So I will definitely be giving that talk. I'm not going to commit to going to a different state in person right now, but we'll at least consider it.
Yeah, I'm not going to this one, but I probably will go to the next year's fall AGU. I think that's Chicago. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's foolish of me, but it has to do with my timing of when I'm in Hawaii, when I'm leaving, and all that stuff. So it's a little early to talk about what they'll do then, but it's planning that. And also, as I said, I don't know yet if I will be at Oxford in the spring, but that's the plan. Unless COVID throws a 6th wave or some craziness, who knows? Right? But at some point, I'm taking a sabbatical regardless in the spring. It's just a question of where I will be. And then in the fall, next fall, I will definitely be in Norway, regardless of COVID. So I will be in Europe, hopefully next year, and we should maybe take advantage of that if we can. Hopefully there'll be some possibility to have in-face meetings again at some point. So we'll do something next year.
Weiji, have you gotten any notifications from EGU about the short course proposal?
Good question. No, I haven't got any email yet. So, but I think that's when's EGU again? April or March? Something like that. So it is a EGU, so the European Geoscience Union.
April-ish.
General Assembly or something.
You might want to check on the website, because I was in a proposal for like what was it, a great debate or something. And
oh yeah, I think I saw
just
that
didn't
one.
get any notifications. It was just put on the website, so maybe check.
Okay.
I did see us on I don't
did you?
know what it exactly is, but we're up there. I don't know what that means.
Let me try and see if I can bring it up. But I know we're on there because there's a pending proposal or something. Last time I checked.
Okay.
Like a few weeks ago. So
we haven't heard anything official, and there's no rush because
I haven't got an email, but I'm not sure if Leo said they just put it on the website and hey, here you are.
Got to write a script to check the website for you. Email you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's gonna take me a while to find it. But yeah, I'll let people know when I find something.
Okay.
Thanks.
And that's I'm depending on how things are next year, most likely doing it virtually. Leo, you said you might be at Vienna.
Yeah, I mean,
or
if things don't change for the worse,
okay,
then yeah, maybe
if the whole war, Armageddon doesn't happen and
yeah,
all of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If the EU lets us in now.
Yeah. The tricky thing for them is that they have to make a decision way sooner than they would like to make the decision, right? So they have to base it on, COVID situation in November or soon, right? To make a decision for next Vienna. So I'll probably also be in Vienna if it's safe and I'll open and all that stuff. But that's a tough thing for them to make. They have to make that decision soon. I think they'd rather wait to see, but they can't. So that's how it is. But everybody else seems alive and well and doing okay and doing good. So it's good. Hawaii is past its 5th wave and it's going down to 0 again because they're going to open things up and it'll have another fresh bump, I'm sure. Given up counting these things. All right, should we call it a day or an evening? So that means Dong Dong won't have to watch too much bullshit, just 50 minutes, 45 minutes. That's good, short for him. All right, guys, take care. Meg and I'm going to have a little chat afterwards to follow up on action items, I think, and then we'll hope to push forward with 6.3 first, I guess, and make sure that's a safe release, and then we'll tackle some of these other bigger issues. All right, stay safe, people. See you in a month or so.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Sayonara.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.